Howdy, everybody. Romans 1:18 says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." And this word hold means to hold down or suppress. So these are the ones who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Today, I want to talk about James Bond and the Bible. Seriously, you may say, brother, what does James Bond have to do with the Bible? That's a good question, and hang tight with me for a minute, and I'm going to tell you. A while back, I was on social media, and there was a link for a discussion in which it thought I might be interested for some reason, and it was about James Bond books. Now, honestly, I don't know why I received that link. I have zero interest in James Bond books, but the title of the thread caught my eye. It was a warning. And so I thought, well, maybe a friend of mine is a member of this and it thinks I might be interested. So I opened the link, and nobody with whom I'm associated with was part of it. However, like I said, the title of it caught my eye. Well, to make a long story short, the author's family no longer holds the rights to his books, but they do keep an eye on them because this is his legacy. And one of his family members had come to this group to tell them something they needed to be aware of, that the company that now owns the rights to the books had rewritten some of the more troubling passages, which means the politically incorrect passages to make them politically correct, and they hadn't told anybody. Now, if someone new buys this book, they're not going to get the original but a modified version, and they wouldn't be any the wiser. Now, those in the group then discovered that the powers that be, the ones that hold the rights to this, they had used their abilities to go in and modify the electronic versions of the books, including the books that were already on the members' electronic devices that they had purchased years earlier. Hadn't told them, just went in there and changed them. And this is why I think that I was shown this discussion. And if they, and this is the generic they, the powers that be, if they're going to censor or alter something that's as inconsequential as a James Bond novel, what will they do to theological texts that may have profound implications on the world and upon their power? Now, I'm very fond of my e-reader. I've had one for years. My like for them started one time when I read an 1,100-page book that weighed 8.5 pounds, and the e-reader became my preference as it weighed 4 ounces. I sold most of my physical books except for the ones that were not available electronically. I have since repurchased the important ones, and I bought some of the older editions to be sure they had not been modified. So what happens if they modify a book and you have no way to know what it should be? Change a phrase in the Bible to make an abomination seem okay, perhaps. Maybe change the definition in the dictionary, not majorly, just enough so that they can spread their lies. This is why we're talking about this right now. Censorship, misinformation, and disinformation are all tools that are used by those who want power. For those who are reasonably aware of history, you already know about the censorship and tyrannical dictatorships, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, Cuba, North Korea, places like that. There are certain circumstances that censorship may be necessary, such as wartime secrets, but overall, free speech is conducive to a healthy society. Now, in the Bible, there's nothing said either directly or indirectly in favor of free speech or opposed to it. However, we are commanded to speak the truth. Ephesians 4:25 says, "Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another." So we are to obey legitimate government authorities unless those government authorities contradict the will of God. The powers of darkness know this, so they must silence the truth. And what makes this difficult is that sometimes it is difficult to distinguish between the truth and the lie. That's why we are commanded to study and to learn so that we will not be deceived. We also know that many will be deceived. And make no mistake about it, although many people shout separation of church and state from the rooftops, these dark powers, they have no problem combining church and state if it serves their ends. And they will attack others from whatever angle they can using this. They will do so subtly if they can, because most of the time, the enemy will not lie when the truth works just as well. In the United States, the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution spells out that the right to free speech shall not be infringed. And far too many people think that it's okay to infringe on the speech if it's offensive or hateful or whatever. Well, offensive speech is the kind of speech that needs protection. Popular speech needs no protection. And brothers and sisters, moral speech is offensive to the world today. And if the dark powers are prohibited from limiting free speech by the laws of the land, they're going to bypass those laws and change the truth. Just as they changed James Bond to make him more acceptable, they will make the Bible more acceptable. And artificial intelligence can do this on its own. It doesn't even have to be directed anymore. So, my admonition to you and the admonition to all of us from God is to study and be aware of what's going on so that we will not be deceived.